Captain on the bridge.
Alright, captains, we are back on the bridge, and today, yes, we are going to review Star Trek Lower Decks Episode 5. So, on screen. Alright, captains, like we have done before in the previous reviews there for Star Trek Lower Decks, we will go over the screenshots, drop in my 2 ECs there, my thoughts, and then give my conclusions and score at the end. Let me just say this now, I really did enjoy this episode. It was really good, but here we go. We'll start it off here. Start off with a beautiful shot of the Cerritos just flying through space. I appreciate these shots with the Cerritos. These space shots just set the mood, and I will say the tone of the music throughout every of the scenes here, it really just worked for me. I felt the feels, I felt what they were trying to do, and I just overall enjoyed the mood the music was setting. So again, appreciate these ship shots of the Cerritos. So start off here with Rutherford in his quarters there, as you see Tenny's below there, but they're resting. They're taking a little bit of sleepy sleep, but then we see Rutherford kind of just having a nightmare here. And I will say that this was probably one of my favorite episodes of Rutherford, because it was really centralized on him, even though we had a bunch of other things going on, which overall just tied it in a bow for me personally. Again, enjoyed this, and then, but yeah, we'll start here. His dream is, looks like he's on a console of some sort, panicking. You can hear him kind of just sort of really trying to keep it together there. The mood, we see something sort of kind of overloading here, which is going to play down a little part there at the end. And you can see here it goes red alert. Now in this picture, you see him without his implant. So this is quite, I didn't actually notice this at first until I watched it a second time. Actually, I watched it 3 times, just saying. It was a great episode. But then, of course, can't stop it. Anything does explode, and he does wake up. And as he comes out of his night, he screamed, and this officer screamed. I forget his name. I think Baron or something. And he just his towel almost fell off again. So I thought it was pretty funny. But so he tries to get back to sleep there, but you can tell this is kind of worrying. And that was just the introduction. We went straight into the Lower Decks intro. Short, sweet, but it was very impactful. And it ended off on a laugh note, an LOL note. I laughed out loud at that, to be honest, captains. So the episode's called Reflections. So here we see the Cerritos over Talgana 4. Captain Freeman is doing a officer's log. They're apparently there to upgrade the power systems, but also some sort of recruitment event, which is kind of hilarious, actually, to be honest with you, Caps. But again, appreciate all this shots of the ships there over the planet, and then the planet itself. And again, it just setting the mood, just brings me back to the Next Generation. It really does. It brings a smile to my face. Again, just a shot of the Cerritos. Again, I've said this before, and captains, if you don't know, I am a Star Trek Online content creator, but we have done our reviews on Star Trek Lower Decks and also Strange New Worlds, because we've just enjoyed being immersed in the Star Trek universe of the shows that we enjoy, and Lower Decks definitely is one of them now. I say that because I do have this ship in Star Trek Online, and it is a good ship. It's a wonky little ship. There's some views of it that just look off a little bit, but again, they do it justice, in my opinion. I really wanted to focus on just giving the compliment of how they just try to make the ship appear grand in these shots. So here we are at the shuttle bay here with the 4, and you see Mariner is not too impressed with their assignment because they're the ones assigned to the recruitment booth, and it's kind of hilarious there having, and then Andy actually was recruited into Starfleet via these recruitments, so I thought it was hilarious. Now Rutherford is having a rough go at it. He is not getting his sleep. He can tell he's tired. He has bags under his eyes. This actually piece of equipment fell on him, and he just wasn't in the best of moods. And Tendi, of course, noticed it. Now, I'm gonna say Tendi. I'm growing. I'm becoming a huge fan of her. Her voice actress, her voice over, the way she portrays herself. I love Tendi, and in all honesty, I'm loving the relationship between the four, and I'm getting it. I really am. This episode made me get it, and we'll go over that when we get later on into the review there. But see, Rutherford is really super tired, and Tendi does scan Rutherford to see what's going on there, and she does notice that there's like some sort of buffering happening or some cache there in like you mentioned long-term memory stuck in the buffer. Now, what she wanted to do was just kind of purge it. So she did her little pressy button thingy and all set him up and suggested that Rutherford get some rest. So cleared whatever was going on to try to get Rutherford rest, because he did look tired, and you can tell he is. And he's usually upbeat here, so you can tell that when something is definitely wrong. Again, Tendi, I'm loving Tendi, and I just noticed this little picture there of the four in stick form there, and again, just trying to always reignite the bond between these officers, Tendi, Rutherford, Mariner, and Boimler. Loving it, and I get it. So now we see, of course, Boimler and Mariner loading up now into the little shuttle here. So shittles, call them little shuttles, shittles. And there's we get a little bit of an Easter egg here. And that Easter egg is Kirk and Spock. Now this is the animated, obviously, and Spock's ears here are a little sort of exaggerated. I thought it was hilarious there, but even earlier, Tendi made a reference to Kirk and Spock again. Of course, the nostalgia nuggets was okay here. I thought it was a good balance. Really did appreciate it, but Mariner's not happy that she has this assignment, and of course, Ransom hears this, and I thought this exchange was really good because she was actually trying to get out of it, but then Ransom's like, no, you are going to do this, and if you don't do it, you don't stick to the recruitment booth, you're going to get apparently sent to Starbase 80, and apparently this Starbase 80 is really scary. Now, Captains, I don't get the reference of Starbase 80. If you do, comment below, because I don't. But I thought it was really cool. Had it even scared Mariner, and we all know Mariner is usually like this gun-ho, not really scared of anything, but even she was afraid of Starbase 80. And I thought again, Ransom overlooking Mariner, I thought was really cool. And we mentioned this in the first or second episode, I think in the first episode of season 3. We're going to see a little bit more of Ransom in terms of the interaction with Mariner, and I'm enjoying it. I really am. And you can see that she's worried. This cutout here, the cutout there of Spock, and I really wish they kind of used it, but it's okay. It was a great reference. So again, I couldn't not get this shot. This made the shot almost look like in what you'd see in the show TNG, and of course we had the shuttle there leaving Cerritos. The shot, really good shot of it here. I do love the side profile of the Cerritos in this shot here, and it just looked real for some reason. I don't know, the shine, what they did there underneath the saucer just did it for me. And I do love these shuttles because it reminds me of the shuttles from TNG, which obviously the evolution is what they're trying to do there. So there's the planet, them just heading down there. And here's Rutherford trying to get some rest, but all of a sudden his little piece there malfunctions. Now, you see there, obviously we know that his eye there's always blue, the ocular color there's always blue, but then it switches to red, and of course he kind of like wakes up. in a foul mood, and I was kind of taken back, but we obviously knew something's going on here. So he actually makes fun of the nacelles there, like why would they put the engineering section down there? He's actually saying it's really dumb. And again, you can tell the mood has changed there for Rutherford, and he doesn't even know where he is. So he goes there, sees an L car, says he's in the California class ship. So again, he doesn't know there what's going on. He recognizes there's now a sort of ocular piece on him. He's like, where do you get that? And this is where now we see reflection of Rutherford with the blue ocular color. So now we're going to see the changes between the blue and the red. And of course, we know that blue is obviously the normal one. So there's something going on here. Rutherford thinks it's an alien taking over his body. But then he's really sort of cocky and sort of brazen and rebellious, that you can kind of tell. And so we can see Rutherford trapped, and now quote unquote trapped on the other side, but it's because you can see the reflection, of course, who can only see him but his own self there. So this is the picture that we used for the thumbnail there, captains. I thought that was a great picture here. Both of them angry-ish, looking at each other, going, kind of wondering what's going on. I really did like that pic there. He's trying to scream up, of course, and no one can hear him. So again, love this little dynamic going on here. Trying to leave there, trying to say he's gonna do everything by himself just to get off the ship there. But then now we get back to we go down to the planet, and here's the Federation embassy. Now this made me laugh here. This is like, the captain, in real life, I'm a salesman, and I kind of worked these booths before, not recruitment booths, but sales booths and all this stuff, like trade shows. And this is totally what it reminded me of, and I was for it. So it showed a bunch of different stalls here. So you got the truth, outpost science, real science. At the collectors there, I thought this was really cool. See some obviously nostalgia nuggets references. I think that's a Gorn in there for Ferengi Tall. I believe that's that Spock helmet there. So they're collecting. You see some Ferengi there as well. And of course, here's the booth. Again, it would have been nice if they used this, but of course, my attention was on the Stargazer. So this was, of course, the other storyline here with Mariner and Boimler on the surface. This I quite enjoyed. Of course, someone comes up to the booth asking about a transporter, I believe the cheaper was or whatever. And if they got on the bridge there, Mariner got all happy. Of course, she knows the assignment. She has to recruit, because if not, Ransom's not going to be happy. And he actually asked a question if the transporter would get to go on the bridge. And she's like, yeah, well, sometimes it can happen. Obviously, she was just trying to be nice and recruit the guy. But now the stall beside them said, nope. Not. She was kind of contradicting everything that was happening in terms of recruiting, and kind of goes against Mariner there, and all the points there, even to the point of sometimes referencing Borg. If you don't want to turn it into Borg and stuff like that. So of course, that wasn't really was what Mariner needed, but of course that is what she's there again. Love the shot of Stargazer there. So the whole plot here in the planet for them to try to recruit people for Starfleet, because that's what they're for. And of course, Mariner not happy about that, and he just kind of walks away. Of course, Mariner is now confronting this person here, and we get to know her identity later on in the episode there. But she's from the archaeologist there, and she again kind of really talking down to her, all that stuff. So got another one asking about, again, love the star. I just love how they're just putting the Stargazer in the shots there, and I quite appreciate all that there again. And this is, I think this is the one that the next stall said something about Borg bits and kind of scared her off there, so she's being all smug about it. She runs away. Mariner almost wrecks the Stargazer model, so that kind of sucks. And you can see Boimler stopping her. She's all pouting there. So that again is the whole. It's going to set up everything here. What's going to happen down the planet. Again, we go back to Cerritos here. We see Mr. Rutherford, or this evil portion of, or evil side, I should say, Rutherford going down. He's trying to stop. And of course, Rutherford says it's a great ship. He's like, nah, California class. Now, we see this officer, who apparently is Officer Barnes, that had gone on dates with Rutherford for about 4 times. And he was being very, like, of course he doesn't recognize her, but he kind of was talking down to her, even mentioned, did those spots all the way go down? That was, whew, that was a little too almost past PG, but of course she kind of got offended there. And of course you see the good Rutherford there trying to stop him, but of course no one can hear. So Barnes again kind of asks, or tells him that for the most part he should know her, because he's asking, are you in security shift, and trying to ask for the sort of shift change and everything, but then he actually makes her cry by saying, couldn't remember her or the things of their dates, and kind of makes her cry, and she kind of walks away. It's kind of sad. So now the reason why he's doing this is because mentioned about Tendi, and of course now he's going to look for Tendi. Finds her in the shuttle bay here, the shuttle bay, looking over the planet. I thought this planet was going to play a little bit more of a part in this episode, but apparently it didn't. So he asks Tendi about the shift change, and of course tells him, but he's trying to stop, of course, himself, or the evil one, and the way he does it is by punching his ocular unit, which again affects him. And now he starts talking to the mirror, or the reflection. Tendi's like, of course Tendi can't see, so he does it again, punches himself, which affects him. He actually says, I'll kill you, tries to throw that over, and then Tendi tries to scan and actually pushes her over, and I was like, oh man. But he walks away, and I love this part. Tendi actually called for security there with using her comm badge. Love that. And then back to the planet here, you see these two just going at it. Boimler was kind of quiet up to this point, and that changes real quick. Now you can see Mariner pointing towards the Museum of Antiques, kind of makes a little joke to her that she just wants to kind of steal stuff. So that is a thing. Now this is where we find out who she is, and she is Petra Aberdeen. I don't remember her. I don't remember any reference of her. See, she has like a sort of a DS9 era, Nemesis era uniform. Captains, if you know, let us know in the comments below. But she used to be a Starfleet officer. That's why she was kind of being contradicted to Mariner, because she kind of knows what Starfleet is all about. And she was using that knowledge to kind of drive people away from their booth. Of course, now again, they're now going to just keep at it, going there. And of course, Mariner gets so angry, the Stargazer actually finally breaks. And of course, that's what Boimler was worried about, was this Stargazer the whole time. Of course, back to Cerritos, so the security is called. And of course, you got Shax and Ta'ana there looking for Rutherford. And of course, they called Ta'ana because Tendi told her what had happened, or what she did to Rutherford. He's in escape hatch, gets away and gets to the transport, and actually does a karate chop to try to take that over. And of course, he trying to energize out somewhere. And of course, Shax makes an appearance. Actually calls him Baby Bear. Which is, that's a stupid name. So that's the phase that he makes. Now he actually gets over this sort of field and actually transports out. Shax should have just sort of shot him. Like, I don't know why, but of course, plot, right? Of course, he gets to the captain's yacht. Awesome. I love how this is like probably the 4th time that we've seen the captain's yacht. I love how they're using this. Of course, you see he's about to get away, actually, and Rutherford slams his face, actually punches himself and slams his face into the window, which of course affects him to the point where he's all smug, of course, because he sees Shaq behind him, and of course, now he stuns him, but in doing so, you see both of them kind of get affected there, and he blacks out in Shax's arms. So, of course, he is going to be bringing Shax over to the med bay. The shot of the Cerritos there. So, from what T'Ana can tell, there are two sort of personalities going on, or something like it's in Rutherford's brain, and they just have to kind of wait and see which personality overtakes the other. Of course, loved how super worried Tendi was. Captain Freeman didn't actually say anything this whole episode other than the captain's log, but this whole time she just had that face of just not impressed. So I wonder, you'd think she'd also show sort of concern, but this was all about Tendi there. But I did like this moment here again. So now we see what's happened here. So now there's two Rutherfords in his mind. This is what it is. And the Rutherford here on the left explains that they're in a mindscape. Two personalities. Kind of get the backstory of him being suppressed because Rutherford kind of was suppressing it. But anytime that he had kind of a glitch or anything, this is the personality that was actually trying to get out. So we're going to find out why. But this is the kind of the younger version of Rutherford there. And he explains that they can kind of do whatever they want, let things appear. So they do that. And then, of course, he shows them what he can do inside their mind, which is essentially come up with anything that they want to. Now, we find out here that only one of them can actually survive. So that's kind of the whole premise now here. We're part of the story where two personalities, but only one can dominate. But we kind of go see this, and this is the machine. You can tell now that that piece of machine is what they were working on or what Rutherford was working on when he was in the dreaming there earlier in the start of the episode there. I didn't notice it at first, but now, of course, here, of course, they have discussions there, and he's clicks on that to try to remember what's going on, and then he sees this. So when I pause this, apparently they said that this is all a sort of, I don't say trick, but they forced this implant on him, and they kind of made it turn out that it was a elective, that he wanted it, but it wasn't. And you can see there how he's not in good shape there. So we're going to find out later on in the episode. So again, you see these two fighting there. And this beam of light is actually the one sort of representing how to get out of the mindscape, and they kind of both go for it, with the younger one shoving the older Rutherford out to try to get out. Of course, Rutherford drags him down. He tries to swim up. That was hilarious, and they stop each other. Of course, says they got to figure this out. Now he talks about how he was sort of building this racer here, and he did it. He got the funds by winning Devron races, apparently, and these are races that are sort of illegal and stuff, but that's how he was funding the building of this machine. Thought this was cool to look how many trophies he got. Space Racers, #1. Apparently that was Rutherford's past, but we do get this now. T'Ana did say that this was sort of 10 years prior, 10 years younger, I should say, Rutherford. So now they're holding hand because this, while they're here, the place kind of shakes, and that's representing that, again, the mind is trying to get them to sort of figure out what's going on here, because it'll only have one dominant and or one personality. They come up with, or the younger one comes up with, a sort of bet to do a race, a Devron race, and the winner gets to leave while the loser goes forever, is gone forever. Rutherford agrees to it, obviously not kind of worried, obviously, but now, of course, again, this was a good banter back and forth between the two, but again, it was just a quick sort of plot here for their part. Again, I appreciate this more as it went on. And then now, what is happening here, the rest of the booths now started going, and this happened at trade shows. This is why I took screenshots. This happens at trade show. You're probably there in your booth for a good 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. But after that, you get happy feet and you're going to start walking around. So usually you go there in two, or I have, and we both take turns just to walk around the convention center or wherever the recruitments are being held, or the sales sort of trade shows. And but yeah, they get all crapped on, and all these guys were kind of crapping on Starfleet, and everyone was kind of taking their shot at them. And then so much so that, again, she's trying to break the Stargazer there. But back in Rutherford's mind, now they start building their sort of racers. And Rutherford actually picks this design. Of course, we all know what it is. I showed it in the thumbnail. It is the Delta Flyer, but it starts with the framework, and he starts just kind of building it up. Now, the Sampaguita, I did not know what this was. Apparently, it is a... Captains, if you don't know, I am Filipino. And I was actually born, though, in Canada. But apparently, the Sampaguita is the national flower of the Philippines. I did not know that. And so it got me to looking who the cast of Lower Decks was, and of course, who Rutherford was. And Rutherford is played by the actor, or voiced by, Eugene Cordero, which it says here on Google, personal life, Cordero is of Filipino descent. So that is awesome how that got into the show. And this is not the only reason why I love this episode, but it just obviously I can connect with it, and I appreciate that. So I thought that was really cool that they're able to put that in the show here. But you see them finishing off their ships. The younger Rutherford goes over to the other Rutherfords, and he shows them that he built the Delta Flyer, of course. Now, the other reference here, of course, Tom Paris. Did mention that Tom Paris made this. Of course, he made fun of it because it was like he made that thing, and of course, Rutherford always wanted one. But then Rutherford, younger one, shows him this. Again, it's Sampaguita. This design is okay. It just, I'll be honest, it just reminds me too much of Star Wars, the X-Wing, minus the two wings in the bottom. But it is what it is. I can appreciate a new design here, but it just reminded me too much of the Star Wars. Captains, let me know down below in the comments if you liked it. I personally thought it was okay, but again, the design is just too close to the X-Wing. But got a good shot of it there. So again, your nacelles, pylons, a huge impulse engine in the back there, and then that cockpit there. And now we go back to the planet, and now you see just everyone laughing at them. Now, you'll see Aberdeen, they're kind of egging them on there. Now, this is where I start loving this episode even more so. At the time, though, I didn't know the Sampaguita and the whole Filipino connection was there, but this is where it turned for me, because you had these two scientists there kind of ask about the uniforms, and then, of course, Boimler starts to explain it, but then the scientist was actually just joking, saying that he actually thought these uniforms were cool. Of course, he thinks it is. Scientist's question, why does it always change? Of course, he says there's like always room for improvement. Now, this scientist here, lady here, actually does something which takes his pip, throws it onto the ground, and now we see Boimler just twitching. He did his whole Boimler, like losing it, like his voice cracking here, and like his pip rang, and then of course someone stepped on it, and everyone's of course laughing, and he loses it. This time you see Mariner trying to cool him down, but Boimler loses it. I love this. He starts flipping out, flips the table, and goes off on everyone. to the point where this is what Starfleet has done for you. We don't want to protect you, but this is the right thing to do. And he just goes on a rampage on all of the people that kind of made fun of him. But this distraction, though, Aberdeen now is going to be sneaking into the museum. And I didn't, and we'll go back to this little item here later, that little image there. But she sneaks there while Boimler just loses it. I mean, captains, I was laughing the whole time when he was doing this. He even jumped on the collector's table and just like look at the animation for him. Apparently these guys were the ones who make these mind games there where you keep trapping people. He says stop doing that. And it's just scaring everyone. See the Klingon there. The Klingon there was earlier at the Antiques one, who was earlier, but he just loses it. Now, in doing so though, this is what actually got people to want to sign up for Starfleet. So this was the first one, and then he just started from there. While Boimler's chasing everyone, those who made fun of him, Mariner's actually taking names of those who wanted to join Starfleet. He just lost it. I loved it. I love this whole sequence here when Boimler lost it. Absolutely enjoyed it 100%. He just created such a mess. It was so good. Now, the other reference, of course, the racing uniforms that Tom Paris used, and I thought it was really cool. So they go to start the race, and love the shot. You can see the size difference, and yeah, that's only a cockpit, while of course the Delta Flyer had more space, but it was really good to see the Delta Flyer again. This is probably one of my favorite shuttle designs of futuristic. Now, I do like the shuttles of the Next Generation. Of course, obviously, the Strange New Worlds one, I lose my ever-loving mind on that one, but this just made sense in terms of evolution. So having seen the Delta Flyer again, huge nostalgia nugget, but I was there for it. I was totally here for it. Of course, their course is randomized, and actually Rutherford says you got to look out for black holes and even Romulans. So I would say, again, this was not really the best design. Didn't really like it, but of course they start racing there. Again, beautiful shot. This is the shot we used in the thumbnail there. And they go, and the younger one gets a little bit of a jump start there. This was a cool race in terms of visuals. I absolutely love, and I think we did see this scene here in the trailer there before the season 3 started. And again, quite literally enjoyed it. Now, there was a reference here from the younger Rutherford when he actually sees the Delta Flyer Rutherford get in front a little bit. He actually activates some booster, and he says punch it. And of course, with the same motion that Sulu did in the KT movie. So I think that's kind of the reference. Captain, you let me know if you thought that was a reference. It would have been funny though if that he did that and it didn't go, but of course that gives him a boost. But he gets a proximity alert, and of course why? Then we see the Derpadex. Captains, I call the Derpadex the Derpadex. And I remember seeing this ship in TNG for the first time, and it was very menacing. And this warbird, this Derpadex, is huge, and I'm glad they showed this here. And it started attacking them here. Captains, you know already what I'm going to do with this, so we'll save that down the road when we do have time to make the video, but you know what we're going to do. Of course, love this shot here of them just being attacked there inside, and the reaction of the Romulan warbird attacking them. And it continues on. Love it here. Just a straight, no nonsense, no changing of anything in terms of the colored weapon. Straight green weaponry. Absolutely love it. Now, in this sequence, it did seem that that the San Pagito was taking a lot of shots here. I think the Delta Flyer got hit a couple times, but the San Pagito took the brunt of it there. So much so that he was actually starting to bleed there. Now, this was probably really gory there, but as nothing there. And you can see them sort of just dodging, but he actually started saying he wanted to make some space between them and the warbird. And Rutherford's like, who are you talking to? And he actually also in his mind brought his friends with him. So you had Tendy there, you had Mariner, and of course Boimler. This moment made me just oof. This moment is what I mentioned to alluded to earlier, is when I went oof. I loved it. I just had the biggest smiles and feels, and I get it. I get it. This was a great show of, even though he's not actually with them, he was wanting to just kind of have them with him in this sort of race to help him out, and I just love this moment. And we see the Derpadex still going after them with the Sampagita behind there, not doing so good there. So we go to the next here. We go back to the planet now. Ransom lands down here, and he's like, Mariner better be in that booth. And of course, he actually sees Mariner in the booth getting names for Starfleet. So he was actually smiling happy, but then of course he sees Boimler's still losing. I absolutely, and I'm pretty sure he felt good losing on the scientist there, but that was awesome. And again, we go back to the chase here. The shot of them trying to avoid the Derpadex, but the Derpadex is blasted, and that's a great shot of it right there. And it made this weird, like, sort of noise as it whooshed across the screen. Yeah, that's what I said, whooshed across the screen. But, of course, they're getting hit there. Again, the Sampagita is not doing so good. It took a lot of hits, and you can tell he's just getting banged up there. And you see the Romulan fire a green torpedo. So remember that, Captain, it's green. All the weapons are green on the Derpadex. And we'll take that. So Rutherford does run over to 10, he says, to energize him out of there, because that shot of the torpedo does take it out, but then they get him in time, but he's not in a good position there. Of course, Rutherford actually asks him, what are you doing? Well, you know, this was cool. It's like, Mariner, get us out of here, and they got to warp and to avoid that torpedo coming from the Derpadex. This was a great warp shot here. I loved it. This as well. This whole friendship thing that they're really pushing on these four, because the last episode 2 was the same thing, right? With the whole, they wanted the rooms there, they wanted to put all their names there so they can get the rooms, and then of course they could have just, Rutherford comes in, they could have just got the room, they could have shared it, but you know, they're really pushing the bond of these four, and I did enjoy it. Now this is where I got the feels, because I'm not gonna lie, this storyline here, Rutherford with his younger self, got me. I felt the feels, captains, no doubt. Of course, everything is, of course, he's actually fading in and out, so he's gonna lose. He actually lost. But before that, as he's fading out there in the mind there, he actually says he remembers what had happened. And this is like almost like a mind meld, but he actually was just clicking. But that definitely was a nostalgia nugget there. Clicks his memory. But what had happened was, again, this is the stored memory in Rutherford's brain, was he was trying to prevent an explosion of some sort that was happening with what he was working on. Of course, it actually does explode, goes critical. And we see there, this is where, like, that's gory. Like, they had blood coming out of his eye. But this is where it actually, where he got his implant. But then there's this figure here saying, and you can tell the uniform there is the TNG later seasons, in my opinion. Looks like it to me. But it's a figure that wanted to erase all the memories of himself. And again, this is why they gave him that implant there, his ocular implant, to help just kind of take out and wipe his memory. So now there's that plot going on there. And of course, unfortunately, and this scene here, this is where it got me. And whether it was Rutherford's voice acting or just the whole combination, I was laughing, I was doing the feels. This episode was absolutely awesome. Of course, now he's the one that emerges out of the coma, and he's super, super happy. Again, this moment here was awesome. Tendi is just growing on me in terms of character development. She's really doing well. From the first time we saw her to now, she's really coming onto her own, and I love it. And the relationship here between these two has always been strong, and I felt the feels. I really did. And the shot of Cerritos there, and this is hilarious. Boimler is going to the brig there, and of course he feels bad that he's going to the brig, and he does actually mention Starbase 80. He's like, no, he was just kind of kidding about that. But Ransom was actually proud of him that he stood up for Starfleet there, so that was cool. And he even invited Boimler to drinks after he gets out of the brig. But he is really happy that he's in the brig, you know, because Ransom gave him a sort of good tap on the shoulder there while he was walking to the brig. Now, of course, now an overarching plot that will happen is who was the person that was trying to erase themselves from Rutherford's memory. And this is, of course, another nostalgia nugget here. We see Admiral Paris. So not only did we hear Tom Paris, Delta Flyer, racing uniform, and we also get the animated version there of Admiral Paris. You didn't actually really see it, but I'm pretty sure that's Paris. I think. I could still be wrong, but I'm saying Paris. You see how pissed Boimler was just cool. So now it's up to Mariner to do the closing log there. As she's doing it, she gets a call from Aberdeen. And what did she tells her? Yeah, just needed that distraction to get. That image there was the Grand Nagus's staff there. So the whole time. And she actually extends an offer for Mariner to join her. And she's like, no thanks. But she does actually save the contact of Aberdeen there. And then the Cerrito goes to warp. Love this picture here. Again, love this whole thing. This, and that was, of course, the Cerritos warping out. We saw almost all the angles of the Cerrito. So that was the episode there, Captains. This really was a great episode, in my opinion. I absolutely enjoyed it. And better than the last one, I'd have to say I'd have to give this one a 9. A 9 because of me laughing out loud with Boimler losing it on the planet. The Rutherford-centric story there, giving us a little bit more background on him. And of course, the connection of the Sampaguita to myself in real life. And I'm really, really loving the connection there that I got from myself to Rutherford there. And it's making me enjoy Lower Decks even more. And again, it's hard to, I'm not taking this too seriously. Caps, when I said I got the feels, I did. But that's because I've fully invested in this, hence why we're doing these reviews here on the bridge with you, Captains. But overall, again, I'll say it again, this was an awesome, awesome episode. Highly, highly recommend, Captains, you watch it. You haven't, just watch it. Even me just kind of going, this is nothing. But this is just me getting out there how I felt about this particular episode. Again, a 9 out of 10. One of the best episodes of Lower Decks is really up there, I would say, with episode 1 and 2. So episode 5 was really high there for me. So if I have to rank it right now, it'd be literally top 3. I'd probably go 1 to 5 at this point. So there, Captains, like the video, comment below, let us know what you liked about this episode. And Captains, subscribe to the YouTube Bridge. And those Captains who have subscribed here because of these reviews that we do, thank you so much. It does mean a lot to me. I am very humbled, and I'm glad you're enjoying and loving how we share our love and passion for Star Trek when we do these reviews. So, Captains, on that, we will leave it on this note.
Live long and prosper.